Prince Harry sends legal warning to the same newspaper Meghan Markle is suing. Prince Harry has issued a legal warning to the very same newspaper whose parent company Meghan Markle is currently suing, telling the Mail on Sunday that their current report about him falling out of touch with the British Marines is false and defamatory. Harry's lawyers at Schillings issued the legal warning on Monday, responding to a Mail on Sunday article that claimed Prince Harry has not been in touch by phone, letter, nor email since his last appearance as an honorary Marine in March. Sources say that Harry, who was made Captain General of the Marines in 2017 but withdrew his position when he stepped down from the royal family this spring, was upset at the insinuation that he has abandoned the armed forces for whom he served for 2 decades. He might have been made up to give up his titles, but he has not given up on the military, far from it, said one friend. An aide for the Duke clarified to say he has not been in touch with the Marines is not the case. He had many conversations with former colleagues during the lockdown and is in regular contact with a lot of military personnel on a private and personal basis. Harry inherited the role of the Captain of the Marines from the Queen in 2017, succeeding Prince Philip, who had held the post for 64 years. There has been some suggestion that Harry's aunt, Princess Anne, could replace him as the Captain of the Marines. Being stripped of his military titles is something friends say was particularly painful to the Prince, who has forged close connections to the military and launched the Invictus Games to help wounded service personnel. Speaking to the Mail on Sunday, Major General Julian Thompson, who led 3 Commando Brigade during the 1982 Falkland War, said, "I'm not trying to give him a lecture, but he has to take the job seriously and not just say, well, I'm still the Captain General and I'm going to live in Los Angeles and never visit the UK. It's wrong. You can't do that. He's expected to attend events and be around and be as accessible as his grandfather was." The Mail on Sunday also suggested that Harry had snubbed Lord Dennett, a former chief of the General Staff, who wrote to the Prince requesting more support for Britain's military community, but never received a reply. Sources close to the Duke, however, claimed that the letter was never sent on and that his office has since been in touch to request a copy of the letter is sent to the Duke's staff in Los Angeles. Harry's legal warning to the Mail on Sunday comes as Meghan is in the midst of her own lawsuit against the newspaper's publisher, Associated Newspaper, which she's suing for breach of the copyright after it published a private letter she wrote to her father, Thomas Markle. Meghan's lawyers will be back in court later this week ahead of a High Court trial due to take place in January. According to royal biographer Robert Lacey, there is evidence of ongoing campaign at the palace to discredit Harry and Meghan, with some courtiers speaking negatively about them to the press. It's made a reconciliation between Harry and Prince Philip less likely. Lacey said in an interview with Vanity Fair last week against the Sussexes, which has made Harry feel alienated and reconciliation with. Added a source close to Harry, it does seem to be the case that there are still some people trying to make the Duke's life difficult and in some cases just take a pop at him. Prince Harry says living in Meghan's shoes taught him unconscious racial bias exists. Prince Harry has described that he had no idea what unconscious bias was until living a day or a week in my wife's shoes. The Duke of Sussex made the comment during conversation with Black Lives Matter campaigner Patrick Hutchinson, who rose to fame after he was photographed rescuing an injured white man after violent clashes erupted between anti-racism protesters and the counter-demonstrators this summer. Harry described Mr. Hutchinson as a guardian angel as he talked about why he risked his own life to protect a rival protester during the heated demonstration. During the half-hour conversation, the two men shared their thoughts on the issues of racism, unconscious bias, and the fight for equality. They spoke via video call to launch British GQ's Heroes Festival, the men's magazine annual summit of ideas, culture, and thought leadership. Chatting from his home in Santa Barbara, California, Harry said, "No one is pointing the finger. You can't really point fingers, especially when it comes to unconscious bias. But once you realize or you feel a little uncomfortable, then the onus is on you to go out and educate yourself, because ignorance is no longer an excuse. And unconscious bias, from my understanding, have the upbringing and the education that I had no idea what it was. I had no idea it existed, and then sad as it is to say, it took me many years to realize it, especially then living a day or a week in my wife's shoes." Mr. Hutchinson responding, "First of all, you have to be willing to listen and have the conversation. have those uncomfortable conversations, because it is an uncomfortable conversation, and I totally get it, especially for a white man who wants to be told that may potentially have a little bit of racism in them. How do you tell the working class white man that's worked really hard all their life to get where they are that they had a leg up? They're not going to have that, and this is where the problem lies. He added there's a big class thing in here too, and it's a combination of the two, because it's not only black people who are struggling, nor non-white people. There are white people who are struggling in impoverished areas, along with black people who don't get the opportunities and the chances that others might get, and we need to just share this around a little bit more and be a little fairer, give other people a chance in society. During the in-depth conversation in which the two men seem to get on incredibly well, Mr. Harry also asked Mr. Hutchison about why he saved the rival protester in June. Mr. Hutchison explained that he and a group of friends had gone to protest to set an example to younger people and make sure things don't get out of hand. He said instinct kicked in to do the right thing and continued. It was thus protecting everybody, and as it turned out, somebody on the other side, because at the end of the day, at that moment in time, you forget that people are anything else, and you just want to do what is right for that particular moment. He added, we were pleased that we had been able to avert a serious situation. Yeah, I would do it for anybody, and I would do it time and time again. It's not just something you think about. Harry and Meghan have spoken extensively about race in recent months. In an interview to mark Black History Month, they said there was a lost generation of people of color whose contribution to UK society will remain untapped as long as structural racism exists.